All right, so you mentioned a little bit about the writing process and how it's addictive to you. But for folks who like to write but may not find it as addictive, they may struggle a little bit with the world building. What kind of advice would you give them?
So, a couple things, because I know the problems that I see my students run into, right? The blank page frightens them. The whole idea of writer's block and, God, what do I do? What do I come up with? And I usually don't start writing a scene until I know how I want it to start, how I want it to end, that scene, and why it's in the book. And that part's really important, because that kind of defines, you know, why this part is in there. And if you stay true to that focus of why this scene is in the book, why it matters to the characters, to the plot, to whatever, then it drives you through and keeps you writing. The other part, as far as coming up with the ideas and stuff, right? So what they say is write what you know, but what they don't mean by that is only write what you have personally experienced, right? Because if they did that, then Mary Shelley would have never written Frankenstein. And you wouldn't have any fantasy, you wouldn't have any science fiction, you wouldn't have Lord of the Rings, because that never happened, right? But Mary Shelley understood what it meant to be ostracized, what it meant to be someone who didn't belong. She was a female writer at a time where that wasn't a thing, right? And she was writing science fiction, basically, which was a man's world kind of thing. When Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings, he didn't know what, you know, elves, fairies, and gnomes and all that kind of stuff, but he understood men and greed and avarice and war and that kind of thing because he'd experienced that. So for me, I write what I see. I write what I've seen my students go through. I write what I've seen my kids go through. I write, in some ways, what I've gone through. Now, I'm not female, and I'm not gay, and I'm not Latina, but I really understand what it's like to be misunderstood. I was as a teenager. I understand what it's like to have friends that you're trying desperately to hold on to and keep the group together and stuff like that, because I've been there. There's a part of me in Charlie, there's a part of me in Patience, there's a part of me in Marcia. Bits and pieces of people I know end up in the characters, and bits and pieces of me end up in the characters. So steal bits and pieces from your life, but don't feel limited by what you have literally experienced, right?
Okay.
Because, I mean, you can do that, right? If I could write a book about being a teacher in Detroit, and that's fine, but I can do other stuff too, so long as my truth is in there, you know? And that's part of what makes it, I'm not going to say easier, because it's never been easy, but possible, is that because I know my truth is coming out on the page, and it's things that I feel, and it's things that I believe in, and that kind of thing, then it really drives me to want to write, instead of, okay, now I've got to do this, right? The other thing too is I don't really have any deadlines, so I don't feel any pressure, and that really matters. I realized really quickly, once I started writing, and you go online and there's advice from everywhere, right? Make an outline that's really, really detailed. I don't do that. You have Stephen King, who doesn't outline anything, which would make me a little nervous. You've got, you know, there's all this little advice and stuff, and there's no one way to do this right, you know? I realized that about a lot of art forms, is you find something that fits you, right? So if you're someone who having a set time each day to go in and write and whatnot, whether it's 15 minutes in the morning or whatever, if that works for you, do it. If you feel pressured that way, right? It's time to write, but I don't have anything to write, and I'm not sure what I'm going to write. Okay, then don't write. Because for me, that kind of stress would hurt me getting the book together instead of helping me.
Okay, so one of the things that I certainly appreciate about your book is that none of the characters are really stereotypes, and I truly love that, because all too often I have read books, and I'll just be frank and honest, by white authors who often stereotype African American characters, or they write this character in such a way that you don't feel any connection with that character.
Right.
And so for me, it doesn't feel authentic or genuine. And so I appreciate Patience being smart. I appreciate this photographic memory that is just phenomenal. I was like, how does she remember all this stuff? And then of course her dad is a judge, and then Charlie, who I love, is the best friend. So I love how these characters are not stereotyped. And what would you recommend to authors, our budding authors who may find themselves falling into that type of character development?
So I'm kind of blessed in that I've known a Patience, I've known a Marcia, I've known a Charlie,
okay,
or at least the core parts of it. So I've had students who are outside of what's expected. Think of how you would think of a character and swing it some.
Okay.
So, I've got a character who, in my third book, who's big, she's a bully, she loves Christmas music because it makes her jolly, right?
Wow.
Which you would not expect, right?
Would not.
It's a funny little twist on the character. And they catch her because her ringtone is "All I Want for Christmas Is You," right? Exactly. That's not what you would expect from somebody who's big and burly and whatnot.
That's not.
So find ways to twist what people expect. Okay. Is all I'm doing. And the other part of it is it has to feel true to you, right? I've known people like Marcia. I've known, again, Patience, at least a big chunk of it was based on Kendra Sanders, because she literally had a photographic memory. Oh yeah.
She was whipped too.
But she would smack down on you if she had to, right?
Oh yeah. That's Kendra.
Right. So there's bits and pieces of different people that I know that go in there. Now, the other thing is I'm writing female characters, and I've got gay characters in there, and I've got people of color in there. And I was really nervous as I'm doing my first book. I was like, I've got to get this right? Because if I don't, then the people that I'm trying to represent, I'm just offending instead, right? So I don't think of them based off of how they look. I think of them as far as their soul, their spirit.
I like that. I appreciate that.
Patience is intelligent and crafty. Marcia is kind to a fault and has empathy for days, but she will trip over her own feet. Charlie has confidence forever, but will tell you exactly how it is to your face, without batting an eye. If I focus on their personality, then you can stay away from stereotypes. Because
I like that.
Patience is black, but that's not who she is, right?
Right.
It's a part of her, and it's a part of her culture, and it's important to her, especially in the third book. But it doesn't define her, right? They're not defined by how they look, or the fact that they're women, or the fact of who they love. And so that makes it a lot easier. And by focusing on their personalities, then you can build them out as characters to where they feel real to everyone else too, right? My mom, when she was reading my fourth book, because she's my editor, so she sees everything before anybody else does, she got to a part that she's like, this part was really, really funny because that was such a Marcia thing to do, right? So when someone says something like that, that means they understand who this character is at their core, and what you did here really fit. So that's when you know you're doing it right.
Awesome. Okay. I cannot wait to read this third book because I can see there's going to be some interesting going on. Okay, so I'm going to try to like Ashley.
Well, you don't have to like her. Okay? Just give her a chance and try and understand where she's coming from.
I'm going to try to give her a chance. But it was left up to me, right? And Ashley.
Well, and I did that on purpose too in the third book, going from the second to the third book and whatnot. For a good chunk, you're not sure either, and I built that doubt in because I wanted people and the readers to have the same kind of doubts and feelings that you are having now. Do I really trust her? Is she really honestly trying to flip the script and do things differently, or was it just employee and all that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any final comments?
Just that I haven't got a whole lot of people reading it yet, but the people who have read my books really, really, really like them, and that means a lot to me. The best response I've gotten when my first book came out from two of my wife's friends who I had never really met before. One sent me a text that said, "Thank you for putting this out into the world," which, that blew me away. That was crazy. And then another friend of hers said, "I wish this book had been around when I was a teenager."
Wow.
When I was trying to decide how to come out, because this book would have helped me out a lot. She made me a little Marcia t-shirt and everything. It was crazy.
Oh, sweet.
So for me, it's not so. I want everyone to read these, but what means a lot more to me is that the fact that the people who have read them, husband, wives, guys, girls, teenagers, adults, whatever, they've all responded really, really, really positively, and that means a lot to me.
It is. This is a great. The characters, the situations are so authentic. When I think about high school, I think so authentic to what they're experiencing, and relationships in particular are very important. And some of them are they have a delicate balance because they want to be close, but then they also want to give each other some space. So yes, I did. I enjoyed it. And I'm going to give Ashley a try, but I cannot wait to read this third one because I have a feeling it is going to be so very interesting. Is it going to test? Is it going to test Patience and Marcia's relationship?
It's going to test Patience and Charlie's relationship.
Oh, I really got to see that. Okay, I can't wait to read this.
And one of the troubles that you have in high school is when your friends start fighting, right? And you're stuck in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, friends know that in DSA, don't they? And they're saying yes. Mr. Chico, thank you so much for spending some time and talking about this book. People, if you have not read this book, you need to. The first book is My Name is Marcia.
Yes.
You should read the first book so you get that wonderful foundation. And I will tell you, Mr. Chico is also a master at foreshadowing. He is. He didn't say that, but when he was talking about his world building, I said, "Oh, he does a lot of foreshadowing. He's a master foreshadowing." So if you are really intuitive and you pay attention, then you can see some things happening. But yes, I highly recommend reading his first book, My Name is Marcia, and then the second one, Marcia's Sophomore Slump. And I cannot wait to read this third one. I'm going to get it real soon. We got money, I'm going to get it real soon. Okay, thank you so much.